Hello guys, welcome to the channel. Today we are going to be covering the insane life story of one of Russia's most prolific serial killers, Andrei Chikatilo, also known as the Butcher of Rostov. But before we go on, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. Thanks guys. Andrei Chikatilo was born on October 16, 1936 in the village of Yabluchne in the Sumy Oblast of the Ukrainian SSR, Soviet Socialist Republic. At the time of his birth, the nation was experiencing a big famine due to Joseph Stalin's forced collectivization of agriculture. Andrei's parents both worked as collective farm laborers and lived in a very small one-room hut. They had the right to cultivate a plot of land behind the hut, but received absolutely no wages for their work. The Chikatilo family seldom had sufficient food to make it through the day. Andrei even claimed at one point that he didn't taste bread till the age of 12. The family would often eat grass and leaves found outside the hut to minimize the hunger. Throughout his childhood, Andrei's mother would always tell him about his brother named Stepan, born sometime before him. The story went that at the age of 4, Stepan was kidnapped and cannibalized by starving neighbors. It has never been established that this event actually occurred, or if a Stepan Chikatilo ever really existed. Needless to say, Andrei Chikatilo's early life was plagued by poverty, hunger, war, and violence. Between the years of 1941 and 1944, Chikatilo witnessed firsthand the effects that the Second World War had on Ukraine, which he described as horrors. Having witnessed bombings, fires, shootings, from which he and his mother would hide in cellars and ditches. At one point, the two of them were even forced to watch their hut burn to the ground. Being a chronic bedwetter made things even worse, cause his mother would berate and beat young Andrei for it. In 1943, Chikatilo's mom gave birth to a baby girl, Tatiana. Given that his father was away during that time, it was speculated that Tatiana was the product of a rape, possibly committed by a German soldier towards his mother. It was also speculated that Andrei was supposedly present during the whole thing. In September 1944, Andrei began his schooling. He was described as a good and curious student, even though he was very shy and physically weak due to extreme hunger, which caused him to faint both at school and at home on numerous occasions. He had a very poor self-esteem and was always trying to compensate with good grades. By his teens, Andrei was a very apt student and also a passionate communist, often organizing communist street marches. He was able to overcome his poor memory and difficulty studying by simply putting in lots and lots of work, which led him to graduate with excellent grades by 1954. Following his graduation, Chikatilo applied for the scholarship at Moscow State University, but was rejected due to other students simply having a way higher batting average than him. He didn't enroll at another university and instead traveled to the city of Kursk, and in 1955 enrolled himself at a vocational school with the aim of becoming a communication technician. The same year, Chikatilo also began his first relationship. It was with a local girl, 2 years his junior. The couple tried to have intercourse 3 times total, and on all 3 occasions he couldn't sustain an erection, causing her to break off the relationship after 19 months. After completing his army service in 1960, He moved back to his parents to help them on their family farm. Shortly after, he also became acquainted with a young divorcee, and the two eventually got together. The relationship was of course unsuccessful and ended after 3 months due to his impotence. You see, this woman would ask Andrei's friends for advice regarding his problems, so everyone found out about it. The thing that he desperately wanted to stay hidden was now in the open. In a 1993 interview regarding this incident, Chikatilo stated, "Girls were going behind my back, whispering that I was impotent. I was so ashamed, I tried to hang myself. My mother and some young neighbors pulled me out of the noose. Well, I thought no one would want such a shamed man, so I had to run away from there, away from my homeland." In 1961, he found a job as a communications engineer in a small town north of Rostov-on-Don, and just 2 years later, he married a woman named Feodosia Odnacheva. The marriage was arranged by his younger sister and her husband. Feodosia seemed to understand Andrei's problems, so they found a way to still conceive children. So in 1965, they welcomed a baby girl named Lyudmila, and 4 years later, in 1969, a son named Yuri. Back in 1964, Chikatilo chose to enroll as a correspondence student at Rostov University, studying Russian literature and philology, obtaining both degrees in 1970. So now he started working as a teacher of Russian language and literature at Vocational School number 33, Novoshakhtinsk. He was always knowledgeable in the subjects he taught, but failed to establish discipline in the classroom. And he was even mocked by his students due to his timid nature, hence making him a very ineffective teacher. In May 1973, Chikatilo committed his first known sexual assault upon one of his pupils. In this incident, he swam towards a 15-year-old girl and groped her breasts and genitals, ejaculating as the girl struggled against his grasp. Months later, Chikatilo sexually assaulted and beat another teenage girl whom he had locked in his classroom. He was not disciplined for either of these incidents, nor for the occasions in which fellow teachers observed Chikatilo fondling himself in the presence of his students. Due to increasing number of complaints, the director invited Chikatilo to a formal meeting and gave him 2 chances: either resign or be fired. He chose discreetly to leave the job and go away on his own terms, finding another teaching job in 1974, which he also lost due to other reasons. In September 1978, he moved to Shakti to work, you guessed it, as a teacher at a technical school there. And only a couple months later after that, in December, he would commit his first murder. On the evening of December 22nd, he lured a 9-year-old girl named Yelena Zakotnova to an old dilapidated hut, which he had secretly purchased that year. He attempted to rape her but failed to achieve an erection. When the girl struggled, he choked her and stabbed her 3 times in the abdomen, ejaculating while stabbing the child. In an interview after his 1990 arrest, Chikatilo later recalled that immediately after he stabbed Zakotnova, the girl had said something very hoarsely, whereupon he strangled her into unconsciousness before throwing her body into the nearby Grushevka river. Her body was found beneath a nearby bridge 2 days later. Another man by the name of Alexander Kravchenko was arrested for her murder, and while under stress, falsely confessed to the murder. He was executed in 1983 by a firing squad. Andrei Chikatilo discovered that he wanted to do more killings, and in the following years, that was exactly what he would do. On September 3rd, 1981, Chikatilo encountered a 17-year-old boarding school student, Larisa Tkachenko, standing at a bus stop as he exited a public library in Rostov city center. According to his subsequent confession, Chikatilo lured Tkachenko to a forest near the Don River with the pretext of drinking vodka and relaxing. When they reached a secluded area, he threw the girl to the ground before tearing off her clothes and attempting intercourse, as Tkachenko remonstrated against his actions. When Chikatilo failed to achieve an erection, he forced mud inside her mouth to stifle her screams before battering and strangling her to death. As he had no knife, Chikatilo mutilated her body with his teeth and a 6-foot-long stick. He also tore one nipple from Tkachenko's body with his teeth before loosely covering her body with leaves, branches, and torn pages of newspaper. Tkachenko's body was found the following day. 9 months after the murder of Tkachenko, on June 12, 1982, Chikatilo traveled by bus to the Bagayevsky district of Rostov to purchase vegetables. Having to change buses in the village of Donskoy, he decided to continue his journey on foot. Walking away from the bus station, he encountered a 13-year-old girl, Lyubo Biryuk, who was walking home from a shopping trip. The two walked together for approximately a quarter of a mile until their path was shielded from the view of potential witnesses by bushes. Whereupon Chikatilo pounced upon Biryuk, dragged her into nearby undergrowth, tore off her dress and killed her by stabbing and slashing her to death as he imitated performing intercourse. When her body was found on June 27th, the medical examiner discovered evidence of 22 knife wounds inflicted to the head, neck, chest and pelvic region. Further wounds found on the skull suggested the killer had attacked Biryuk from behind with the handle and blade of his knife. In addition, several striations were discovered upon Biryuk's eye sockets. Following Biryuk's murder between July and September 1982, he killed another 5 victims, all aged between 9 and 18. They were usually runaways or children whom he would meet at bus or railway stations, led to the forest or other secluded area, and then usually killed by stabbing and slashing. Some of them were also beaten. Now the police believed they were dealing with a dangerous and unhinged serial killer, and they were growing desperate to find him. Beginning in September 1983, many mentally challenged youths confessed to the murders while subjected to very brutal police interrogations. 3 of them, due to the pressure, even committed suicide. But the bodies kept piling up, and there were more and more of them. The killings wouldn't stop throughout 1984. On September of that year, Chikatilo was even arrested when spotted by 2 undercover police officers while wandering in various stations trying to approach women in a very creepy fashion. Upon his arrest, the police discovered that he fit the personality of the unknown killer, but the blood type didn't match, so after 3 months, in December of the same year, they had to let him go. The killings continued till November 1990. Then the police decided to look deeper into Chikatilo's life, given that he was once a suspect and also lost 2 teaching jobs because of sexual misconduct. The same month, they put him under surveillance and discovered that he was wandering around the city, particularly stations, while trying to strike up a conversation with mainly children and young adults, proposing them a good time and trying to lure them away. He was arrested in 1990 and with the help of a forensic psychiatrist broke down in tears and confessed to each and every one of the killings committed. He even sketched the burial sites and confessed to 56 plus killings in total. He was put on trial and convicted of 52 murders. In January 1994, he was sentenced to death by a firing squad, which took place in February 14, 1994. He was buried in an unmarked grave within the prison cemetery. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please like the video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and I will see you in the next one.